Hello. As you can see, I've quite a bit more done from the last time. I've done a lot of painting. The chassis is more or less finished now. What I decided to do was paint the drive line in black, as you can see, and underneath there. Now I have done some weathering on it, but what I wanted to appear to be is a truck that's seen some running around, done some miles, and been cleaned. And as anybody that drives a truck knows, you can't always get them completely clean. You can't really see it on here, but I've mixed up some rust coloured wash on the springs and the spring hangers, on the brake drums at the back there. You can just see a slight shading, and you can see a bit more on that one, on the brake drums and at the front, all the way along. And then I've put a black brown wash all over the inside of the chassis, all the way along on the chassis rails and on all the running gear underneath. Not done any on the top, on the outside, because I'll do that when I've finished everything else. As you can see, I put the wheels on. One thing I'd say is that this suspension system here at the back, as you can see there, rocks from side to side. And what happened was, when I was putting the wheels on, you may be able to see that the differential there actually moves from one side to the other. Hang on, put it there for you. It moves against the prop shaft there. And then what happened, you may remember I mentioned there, to replace the steel bar on this one, the tug bar at the back, this one snapped in half. I've managed to glue this one back together again. It's okay, but I can see the break. So you need to be careful. Also, when you're putting the wheels on, there's a D-shaped slot in the back of the wheels that goes over a circular pin on the end of the axle. It goes on, but obviously the brake actuators, the spring brakes, have to go on in a certain place. And what you've got is, for about 1 millimetre, 2 millimetres, right at the end of the axle there, it turns into the D-shaped thing. So you've got to be careful that you don't push too hard. That's how I managed to break this tug bar, was pushing too hard. Thought I had it in the right place, and I hadn't. So the best way to put it on is to put it on and turn it gently until it clicks in, and it will go in. What else have I done? I painted the airbags black. There's only 2 airbags on it, and I'll paint a dirty metal colour on these 2 hangers underneath. That's how they are, because they go in and out of the airbag, and it wipes all the rust off them, cleans all the rust off them. Painted the exhaust pipe a rust colour. Mixed together was blue and orange, came up with that colour. It looks quite realistic to me. Hey ho. You can see just here where it's a little bit discoloured, because I put the rust wash on there, and I think it works really well. It's quite subtle. I've also put together, let's move this fella out of the way, I've also put together the interior of the cab. I've put a lot of photographs on this, so you can see most of it. I've put some wear and tear, distressed the seat. And there's the only thing I'd say with the cab, it's easy enough. Putting the transfers on is quite difficult. What I would suggest to you, however, when you put the transfer on, I'll show you on the instructions here. When you put the transfer onto the dashboard, it fills the whole dashboard. Had I realised the problem I was going to have putting it on, because of all the lumpy bits, all the switches on the dashboard, I would have cut it in half and put it in 2 halves. It would have been much easier to do. And obviously paint it first, then put the transfer on, then build the rest of it up. What I've done then is there are 2 brake controls here. There's tiny little buttons that you glue onto that point and that point on the dashboard. Now I had exactly the same problem when I built the 1070, the M1070. It's so tiny that I couldn't get them to glue on and loop right. So what I've done is I got them on, but then I broke one off. So I've knocked them both off, and I've just put the red and the blue paint. Sometimes this button here would be black, sometimes it would be blue. But the red one is always on, and the blue one is off. The dead man's handle here, you don't even get dead man's handles on a modern truck. The dead man's handle, they were always blue on the end, and so I've put them blue. The seats, as I say, I've distressed them, and I think they've come out quite well, to be honest, those. What else have I done? I painted the inside of the bonnet. I painted the insides of the window frames all the way round, and I haven't painted the inside of the doors because the doors got the glue into there, but I painted the inside of the window frames at the back. That's for that. The bonnet, I painted the inside of the bonnet so that if you look through any of the holes, it's painted. One thing I would say is in the grille here, before I painted it, what I noticed was a lot of these holes, especially in this area here, had a lot of flash in them. So once you painted it, it would appear that they were full, that they were filled in. So with a knife and an hour of my life I'll never get back, very carefully cut that flash back out of there. But hey, that's the thing that you're doing here, isn't it? If you want to make it look right, you got to spend the time doing it. Built the radiator up. That's going to be painted black before it goes on. The air filter sits on the top of that wing there. I didn't put it on at the time because you wouldn't be able to paint underneath it properly. The spare wheel hoist and bracket, as I mentioned last time, still needs a cable putting on it, and I'll do that before I stick it to the truck. The inside of the doors I painted, because obviously once you put them on you won't be able to paint the inside, and applied the little transfers on the doors. That was easy enough, no rocket science there at all. It's easier to paint stuff like that, I find, where if you leave it on the sprue, cut most of the locators off it and then spray it, so you only got a bit of filing to do as well. That's about where I'm up to. There's it's done most of it there. As I say, most of the chassis and running gears finished. What I'm going to do next, I've done all of 18, 19, 20 and 21, is we're going to go to building the rest of the cab up, which is 22, section 22, putting all the glass in, putting the bonnet on and putting the doors on, but there's all the lighting bars and the rest of it that has to go on. Then build the bull bar up at the front, which is 23. The bull bar assemblies all of this here, and I may put the cab on. Obviously before I put the cab on I will probably paint it, because I don't want to overpaint what I've already done, so I'll probably spray it before I put it back on the truck, on the chassis. I think that would be as far as I would go. Yeah, next one is into the winch gear on the centre of the chassis, and we'll do that as a separate project. That's about it. Any questions, any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments area below, and I'll speak to you next time. Ta-da!